So, what's a crime? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? You break the law, you've committed a crime. But what if I told you the official numbers we see on the news are just a tiny, tiny fraction of the real story? And what if the very definition of crime isn't nearly as rock solid as we think? All right, let's get into it and really unpack who decides what, and more importantly, who is a criminal.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the numbers themselves with this idea of a crime iceberg. Then, we're diving into some, well, pretty surprising theories, like what if crime is actually normal, or maybe a tool used by the powerful? We'll also explore how it's all about who gets labeled. And finally, we'll ask what on earth gender has to do with any of this.
Okay, so first up, the crime iceberg. This is all about the huge, and I mean huge, gap between the crimes that actually happen and the ones that make it into the official stats.
Let's start with a hard number. For the year ending March 2025, police in England and Wales recorded 6.6 million offenses. This is the number you'll probably hear on the news. It sounds massive, right? And it is.
But here's the kicker. Is that really how much crime is going on? The short answer? Not even close. That number, 6.6 million, that's just the beginning of the puzzle. And check this out. This is where it gets really eye-opening. While the police recorded that 6.6 million, a massive survey where they actually ask people if they've been victims of crime, that's the crime survey for England and Wales, well, it estimated the number was closer to 9.4 million. That's a difference of almost 3 million incidents that just vanished. They never made it onto the police books.
And there's a perfect name for this gap: the dark figure of crime. The iceberg metaphor is just brilliant, isn't it? The police dots, that 6.6 million, that's just the tip. It's what we can see above the water. But underneath, there's this enormous hidden mass of crime that for all sorts of reasons never gets reported or recorded.
So let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about counting crime, but what if we ask what crime does? Now this next idea might sound a little crazy. What if crime isn't just a bad thing? What if it's actually a normal, maybe even necessary part of having a society?
A sociologist named Emil Durkheim argued exactly that. His point was, look around. Crime exists in every single society, everywhere in the world. And if it's everywhere, it can't just be some kind of disease, right? It must be doing something. It must have a function.
So, what are these functions? Well, first, when someone commits a crime and gets punished, it draws a line in the sand for the rest of us. It reinforces what's right and wrong. Second, sometimes deviance is how we change for the better. Think about it. The suffragettes, civil rights activists, they broke the rules, but their actions pushed society forward. And finally, a big spike in crime can be like a flashing red light on society's dashboard, a warning that something, like maybe our schools or government, isn't working right.
But what if that's too optimistic? What if crime isn't about helping society stick together? What if it's really all about power? This brings us to a much more critical way of looking at things, one that asks a very simple, very pointed question. Who are the laws really for?
So Marxist theory comes in with a pretty radical answer. It says that capitalism itself is criminogenic. It's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea is that the system itself actually causes crime, by its very nature, pushing us to compete, to want more stuff, to put profit above all else. It creates the conditions for crime across the board, from petty theft on the street to massive fraud in the boardroom.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. Look at this. Social Security fraud, often a crime of poverty, can get you jail time. But corporate tax evasion, a crime of wealth that can involve millions, is often treated with kid gloves, maybe a fine, if it's even prosecuted at all. Marxists would say this isn't a mistake. It's how the system is designed to work. One law for the rich and another for the poor.
So, we're starting to see a pattern here, right? Maybe what we call crime has less to do with the actual act and a whole lot more to do with who's doing it. This is the absolute core idea of the interactionist perspective.
For these thinkers, an act isn't inherently criminal or deviant. It only becomes deviant when other people, especially people with power like police or judges, slap a label on it. It's the reaction that creates the crime, not the action itself.
And here's a perfect example from some classic research by sociologist Aaron Ciccarel. He looked at juvenile justice and found that when a middle-class kid got into trouble, the authorities often saw it as a one-off. They were just misguided, maybe having a bad day. Their parents could come in, smooth things over, and it would all be handled informally.
But, and this is the crucial part, when a working-class kid did the exact same thing, the story was completely different. They fit the stereotype of a delinquent,
They were seen as being on a one-way street to a life of crime. Same act, totally different label, and a completely different future as a result.
Okay, and for our final piece of the puzzle, let's talk about one of the most glaringly obvious patterns in all of crime data, the gender gap. I mean, no matter how you slice it, men and boys commit way more crime than women and girls. So why is that?
Just look at this chart. It really says it all. In 2023/24, a whopping 84% of all people arrested were men. 84%. This isn't just a small trend. It is one of the most fundamental facts about crime.
So what could possibly explain this? Well, feminist sociologist Frances Hadenson argued it comes down to one word: control. She said that in a patriarchal society, women are controlled in three main areas. At home, they're often burdened with childcare and housework, which literally limits their time and opportunity to go out and commit crime. In public, the fear of male violence and harassment restricts where they can go and when. And at work, the glass ceiling keeps them out of the top jobs, where the big-money corporate crimes happen. So for Hadenson, it's not that women are somehow naturally better, it's that they have far fewer opportunities to be bad.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? After looking at the hidden numbers, the functions, the power games, the labels, and the gender gap, we get to a really powerful conclusion. Crime isn't some simple, objective thing out there in the world waiting for us to count it. It's a social construction. It's built and shaped by who decides to report it, who we tell the police to look for, who writes the laws, and who has the power to make a label stick.
And that leaves us with one last, pretty challenging question to think about. If we accept that crime is socially constructed, then what are we actually doing? Every time we create a new law or launch a new police initiative, are we genuinely building a safer, more just world? Or are we just getting more and more efficient at pinning labels on certain kinds of people and certain kinds of behaviors while letting others slide? It's something to think about for sure.